And here's where I want to pick up with our witnesses. The CIA analyst who attended the New York meeting acknowledged to the Joint Inquiry staff that he had seen the information regarding al-Midar's U.S. visa and al-Hazmi's travel to the U.S., but he stated that he would not share information outside of the CIA unless he had authority to do so and unless that was the purpose of the meeting. Now, June 11th, New York. Now we've got the FBI asking the CIA, would you tell us why you're following these two guys? And according to the CIA analyst, to our staff, that information was denied because no authority to do so, unless that's the purpose of the meeting. So I'll ask our CIA officer, as far as you know, is our staff report correct?
I would, the whole staff report?
No. What I read to you.
Could I just limit my comment to the June 11th meeting for right now?
Just on that.
Okay.
Is that correct, what I just read?
I would, first of all, I would distinguish between one CIA officer saying, I don't feel comfortable with sharing this information with a particular FBI individual, from the entire corporate body of the CIA and its policy. The second thing I would say is that the CIA officer was there.
Just ask you if this happened.
Not exactly that way.
Okay, then tell us how it happened.
I wasn't there.
January 15, 2000, 1 week after leaving Malaysia, Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi flew to Los Angeles from Bangkok and settled in the San Diego area. In April 2000, Nawaf al-Hazmi took an introductory flying lesson at the National Air College in San Diego. A week later, al-Hazmi received a $5,000 wire transfer through a third party sent from the United Arab Emirates. In May, al-Mihdhar and al-Hazmi took flight training in San Diego, and in June, al-Hazmi left the United States on a Lufthansa flight from Los Angeles to Frankfurt, connecting to Oman, Jordan. Al-Mihdhar did not return to the United States until 13 months later, in July of 2001. Al-Hazmi remained in the United States, staying in the San Diego area until December 2000, when he moved to Arizona with Hani Hanjour, who had just returned to the United States. The Director of Central Intelligence testified that Hani Hanjour went to Afghanistan for 6 weeks in 1989, when he was 17, to participate in a jihad. He first entered the United States in October of 1991 from Saudi Arabia to attend an English language program at the University of Arizona in Tucson. When he left the United States in early 1992 for Saudi Arabia, he was a different person, according to a brother who spoke to the media. According to the Director of Central Intelligence, Hanjour then wore a full beard, cut his past social ties, and spent most of his time reading books on religion and airplanes. Hanjour returned to the United States in April of 1996. After residing in Florida for a month, he moved to Oakland, California, where he took an English language course. In the summer, he began flight training, and in September, he moved to Arizona, where he took flight lessons for a month in Scottsdale. Hanjour left the United States for Saudi Arabia in November of '96, returning to the United States in November 1997. Hanjour left the United States again in April 1999 after receiving an FAA commercial pilot certificate. In September, after an initial denial, he obtained a student visa in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, and returned to the United States. Then, in November of 2000, having stayed in Florida for a month, he met Nawaf al-Hazmi in California and traveled with him to Arizona in early December. On December 12th, he took up residence in Mesa, Arizona with Hazmi and returned aviation training. He took Boeing groundwork and simulator training in February and March of 2001, when he and Nawafal Hazmi left Arizona for Northern Virginia. Muhammad Atta returned to Germany from Afghanistan through Pakistan in February 2000. On March 1st, he sent the first of a series of emails to pilot training schools in Lakedale, Florida, and Norman, Oklahoma. Claiming that his passport had been lost, Atta obtained a new Egyptian passport in Hamburg, Germany, in May of 2000, and a visa for travel to the United States. He crossed over to the Czech Republic by bus and flew to Newark, New Jersey in June of 2000. Marwan al-Shehi had arrived several days earlier on a flight from the United Arab Emirates through Brussels to Newark, New Jersey. He obtained a new passport, apparently in Pakistan, before leaving for Germany at the beginning of January 2000. Later that month, he obtained a 10-year multiple entry visa at the U.S. consulate in Dubai. Atta and al-Shehi stayed in the New York area, renting apartments together until the beginning of July, when they flew to Oklahoma City for a short visit to the Airman Flight School in Norman, Oklahoma. They proceeded to Florida, opened a joint account at the SunTrust Bank, depositing $7,000, and began training at Huffman Aviation in Venice, Florida. In the meantime, Ziad Jarrah arrived in the United States on June 27th at Atlanta, Georgia. Earlier in the year, he reported losing his Lebanese passport, and in May, he obtained a 5-year B1, B2 multiple entry visa. On arriving in the United States, Jarrah proceeded to Venice, Florida, where he began training at the Florida Flight Training Center. In fall of 2000, Muhammad Atta and Marwan al-Shehi obtained instrument certifications and commercial pilot licenses at Huffman Aviation. They also spent a brief period at Jones Aviation in Sarasota, Florida. From December 29 to 31st, Atta and al-Shehi received Boeing flight simulator training at Sim Center and Pan Am International in Opa-locka, Florida. The FBI reports that both men requested training on executing turns and approaches, but not other training normally associated with the course. In the meantime, Ziad Jarrah continued flight training until December 2000, when he had begun it, the Florida Flight Training Center. In mid-December and early January 2001, he took Boeing flight simulator lessons at the Area Service Aviation Center in Virginia Gardens, Florida. In December 2000, Marwan al-Shehi flew to Hamburg and then on to the United Arab Emirates, returning for the December flight simulator training with Muhammad Atta. On January 4, 2001, Muhammad Atta flew from Tampa through Miami to Madrid, Spain, returning to Miami on January 10th. The Director of Central Intelligence testified that the purpose of Muhammad Atta's trip to Spain may have been to meet with other al-Qaeda operatives to pass along an update on the pilot's training progress and receive information on the supporting hijackers who would begin arriving in the United States in the spring. The Director of Central Intelligence, George Tenet, testified that Muhammad Atta may have also traveled outside of the United States in early April 2001 to meet an Iraqi intelligence officer, although we are still working to corroborate this. Muhammad Atta may have traveled under an unknown alias. The CIA has been unable to establish that he left the United States or entered Europe in April 2001 under his true name or any known alias. On April 18th, Marwan al-Shehi traveled outside the United States 3 times, flew to Egypt by way of Amsterdam, and returned to Miami from Egypt to Amsterdam on May 2nd. In Egypt, Marwan al-Shehi visited Muhammad Atta's father and returned to the United States with Atta's international driver's license. Apart from that, the Director of Central Intelligence testified nothing else is known of Marwan al-Shehi's activities while traveling outside the United States. Ziad Jarrah traveled even more frequently, taking at least 5 trips outside the United States to visit his family in Lebanon and to visit his girlfriend in Germany. After, Marwan al-Shehi returned from Morocco in January of 2001. he and Atta moved to Georgia for flight training. In February, they traveled to Virginia Beach, Virginia, where they opened a mailbox account. A crop duster pilot in Bella Grade, Florida, identified Muhammad Atta as inquiring about the purchase and operation of crop dusters while Muhammad Atta was living in the Atlanta area.